Hey there, Jackie here with dreamtoauthor.com, and thank you for joining me. I have a special guest on here today, and I want to talk to him a little bit about his latest book. Now, Adam Carroll, you and I have been working in the same network on financial literacy efforts with community banks, but with the general public as well. So it's been a pleasure to be able to meet a fellow author and talk a little bit about the book writing process and some of those marketing strategies that have worked. And I might even ask you to talk a little bit about how you have engaged in speaking events and providing education, how that's helped your book sales. So Adam, thanks for
Yes.
joining me.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, and thanks for having me here, Jackie. Us authors are a weird bunch, aren't we? I mean, we
Absolutely.
spend copious amounts of time in Starbucks writing, pounding out on our laptop to give birth to something. And in my case, this book, I have four now. This is my fourth. But we have it. We give birth to this thing, and then we're like, what do I do with it now? And how do
Right.
I get it out there? And how do I sell a bunch of copies of it?
Absolutely. And you are no stranger to this. So being your fourth, now this is Build a Bigger Life Manifesto. And tell me
Yep.
a little bit about the book and how you came about it, because this is good stuff here.
Yeah, well, so I'll give you kind of a quick rundown of the books that I wrote and then how this one came about.
Yeah, great.
My very first book I self-published, and it was called Winning the Money Game. It was co-authored by a friend of mine and I, and we had no idea what we were doing. It was before the days of print on demand from Amazon, so we were literally ordering thousands of copies at a time and then trying to sell those. And what occurred to me in the midst of it was if I was speaking on college campuses, I could sell mass quantities of books into the college that they would then give away to the students. So we would sell a speaking engagement, and then we would tack on cases of books on the back end of a speaking engagement. So I'm really proud to say that that book has reached bestseller status by pretty much every measuring stick. So we've sold, I think, 40,000 copies of that book so far.
Wow.
Um, that had us on a ton of college campuses, and I started hearing all these stories from people about not being able to save money. So I wrote a book called 30 Days to 1K. That book I went the print on demand route, so it is only on CreateSpace,
Uh-huh.
and it gets X number of sales a month. I make a little bit of mailbox money from that book.
Right.
Then I wrote a book called Mastery of Money for Students. And the Mastery of Money book for students was a little more college level, but
Mhm.
I also attached a curriculum to it. And the curriculum piece was sort of the magic piece of the puzzle, because then high schools and colleges started picking up the book in mass as part of their curriculum. And when you do that, you get these recurring sales every single year when the educator says, hey, have you updated the book, or do I need to order new copies of the book? Because we hand them out to all these students. So Mastery of Money for Students, still out there selling lots of copies every single year. And then I started a podcast back in 2015 called the Build a Bigger Life podcast. And the story behind the podcast was I had told a college student, hey, you need to build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle, because they were buying trinkets and trash and liabilities, right? And so the Build a Bigger Life philosophy came out in the podcast. Over the course of about 150 interviews, I boiled them all down and realized that of the people I interviewed, there were about 9 core tenets that people followed. And I started writing them out, talking about them on stages. And then I ended up writing this book, the Build a Bigger Life Manifesto.
That's
And
amazing.
this is book number 4. We're marketing and promoting it now. And, that has its own unique challenges in the midst of COVID and quarantine.
Amen. Amen. Which,
Yeah.
our writers right now, as I've got some clients that have published this year, and it does present a challenge, but it's not slowing them down. They're able to just pivot, our favorite word this year, and kind of go, virtual book launch events and things like that. I know I've started a little bit of that with my book release on my own. Um,
Yep.
Let me get back to your 4 books real quick. On average, because I've talked to fiction writers and nonfiction writers that are clients, how long in word count are these books, and how long is it take for you to get the first draft written, for example?
Yeah. So most of my books, Jackie, I try and keep around the 40 to 50,000 word count.
Hmm.
And they end up being about, I think this is 124 pages.
Yep.
Um, so it's big enough to have a little bit of heft to it, but not so big that it's an imposing read. That was always my goal. And as far as how long it takes to write, my writing process generally is when I'm in writing mode, I will spend from 5:30 until about 7:30 or 8 in the morning at a Starbucks at the same chair, same booth, with AirPods in and rainfall in my ears because it puts me in an alpha state so I can write a little bit more efficiently.
Nice.
And I'll do that 2 or 3 days a week in the morning. So I know I'm going to go, I'm going to get set up, and my goal is to pound out somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 words in that amount of time.
That's
Uh,
amazing. That's a really
Generally,
good start. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that, yeah, getting that habit set is very important.
there's something interesting about the coffee cup sitting there. I'm in the same environment. I hear rainfall. It's similar smells. Like you really do have to set your environment to write. And when you're in that environment, you're like, oh, it's time to write because I'm in this environment. I think moving around for me would be problematic. So what I would recommend to your writers out there is figure out what environment makes you feel creative and go there every time and just dedicate 90 minutes, 120 minutes, whatever you can do to just write and stay focused. Don't check email, turn off Wi-Fi, like just write. That's all you're there to do.
Adam, you hit the nail on the head because I actually have an ebook out there that's available for anyone, getting in the right mindset and challenges getting in that right mindset. And that is one of the things that people need to do. Find something that inspires them to write and go back to it as often as they can to get in
Yes,
that writing mode and that habit. So thank you.
totally.
That's a great point there. So Adam, if they have any information on how to look up your book, where do they go? What's the easy place to get to you?
So the easiest way to find me, if you want info on Adam Carroll, go to adamcarroll.info. So it's ADAMCARROLL.info. All my books are there. I've got a couple of TED Talks that are out there as well. One has racked up a number of views on YouTube, so check that one out. And then a documentary that I did on student loan debt, which is also available on the site.
Perfect. Anyone interested in that and anything financial education, he is the go-to man. I've seen him speak and it's life-changing. You're going to get so much out of what he has to offer. So thank you, Adam, for joining today. I really appreciate your time and we'll catch up soon.
Jackie, it's a pleasure.